Good day, everybody. Hey, this is Rob Mazak, and I am a psychic medium. I do a lot of different types of talks, and if you've never heard me talk before, I will take a topic, and we're just going to let it roll. I don't really like to script things, prepare things, write things down. I just like to talk from the heart and see where it all takes us. And today I wanted to talk about emotions. Now, that is a really, really big subject. But I wanted to start with that because today or many of us, I should say, attended a memorial service for a fallen soldier. And I found that there was a real interesting variety of emotional responses that obviously did not seem to have any control behind it, meaning that the emotions came out regardless of whether the person wanted them to or not. And there are some people that were in that room that were extremely calm and didn't look like anything of any high emotional output, I guess is the right word, or impact was really not there. And so I wanted to kind of play around with this a little bit today because, emotions are something that is a really interesting aspect of being a human. Being human means we are emotional beings. Now, I'm not sure if other animal forms are emotional at all. I mean, I'm sure some of our domestic pets, you can probably pick up on it occasionally here and there. You can usually tell if your dog's mad at you because you didn't take him for a walk or whatever. I got a dog like that. And it seems like that he would exhibit emotional feelings of being angry or mad or disappointed or things like that. But, with animals, you can't really entirely prove or know. But us humans, we are programmed to be emotional beings. I'm not sure exactly what the grand design was for us when we came to be a human in this reality, and whoever designed us. We won't really go into that today because there's a lot of ideas, but I can tell you that emotions are probably the most powerful thing that exists within us and on this planet. And emotions really do show up whether we invite them or not. I really learned that the hard way, not the hard way, but I really learned that by going through my dark night of the soul. And I realized that there was really nothing I could do with emotions that showed up. Let me rephrase that. There was nothing I could do to stop the emotions from showing up. Our control really is harnessed when we decide what we're going to do with those emotions. But many of us just kind of run on automatic pilot and we just let the emotions take us wherever the emotions want to take us. I'm not really meaning to personify emotions as if they're a person, but I think you understand that emotions are just simply part of us. And that's what really makes us human. That's what separates us from the wild animals and the animals that tend to eat each other, to survive. And it's just a whole different aspect of living, but it is probably one of the most important ones because emotions are tied to so many things in our existence and how we function or don't function. And what I do know, though, is if you do not really put your emotions in check. I'm not saying stuff them away. We'll come back on that. But what I mean is putting them in check as in recognizing that they are present and that is actually happening to you. And I think that was probably the most awesome thing that I gained out of going through my year-long personal journey of peeling the onion back, the layers of the onion within myself, and really looking at all those emotions and emotional coding and programming that had just been swirling around in my life and in my existence, and creating things for me that I didn't necessarily consciously desire, is now I can see and know that it's happening. And of course, there are times when emotions are very important. You lose somebody, somebody dies, somebody gets injured really badly, long-term mate leaves you, or something happens where, somebody's no longer in your life. And there is a process, a grieving process that is important. That is absolutely important. I'm not saying that we're going to talk about taking our emotions and stuffing them away. And that's really not healthy either. Let me tell you, stowing away emotions and feelings and not talking about them, not bringing them out and recognizing them will cause so many physical problems. It is unfathomable. I can't even say that word. Very impossible to determine the outcome when it happens. That was really difficult to say, wasn't it? So I'll give you an example. So when my first marriage of 26 years came screeching to an end, it seemed like it was a quick end, but of course it wasn't. I just wasn't paying attention, and it seemed all sudden. But when it happened, it was very, very interesting. I remember standing in the kitchen of my home after the other half had left, and I knew that they weren't coming back. I mean, they were going off for a job, but I knew they weren't coming back, that this was it pretty much. And what was interesting is something that happened between us at our 7-year mark that I did not deal with, me personally. I can't speak to the other half. Something that I did not deal with, and I just kind of pushed it aside and kept rolling with whatever in the relationship. It came strikingly fast back to my conscious mind, as if it had just happened. And at that moment, I remember saying to myself, I don't know if it was in my mind or out loud, probably both, that this will never happen to me again. And I think I've stuck to my word pretty well on that. I mean, there are times when I just like to be mad, or I like to be sad, or I like to be whatever. But the thing is, and now I can no longer say that I don't know that it's happening, which is a good thing, and I guess sometimes a bad thing. Because, sometimes when we go through life, we just kind of have the blinders on, and we don't really realize that the emotions are eventually turning into perceptions and belief and truth. And next thing you know, the emotions are ruling us. That we may, not knowing that, sometimes is like being ignorant of things and just going through life and not even realizing that there's a problem. So you don't feel like there's a problem. So it seems like a really good life, or a really good relationship, or a really good whatever, the job, things like that. But when you really pay attention to your emotions and how you are feeling and how they are affecting you, you would be amazed at how powerful they really are. I mean, how many of us have listened to a song that comes on the radio or comes across on our streaming platforms? It's modern times, right? I know I'm an old guy, but however you play that song or however it comes up. And next thing you know, you find yourself angry, or you find yourself nervous, or you find yourself bawling your eyes out. When you really break it down and look at why that's happening, it is simply that a lot of our memories, in fact, most of our memories, according to Joe Dispenza, are attached to emotions. And so that's the other side of manifesting we'll talk about if we have some time in this one. But the thing is that emotions are really, really what ties into our memories, which will eventually create our experience in life. Because our minds, as you probably heard me say before, the different levels of consciousness that we have will actually have to piece things together that happen in our day based on our previous experience, based on things that have happened to us before, lessons learned, lessons from other people, things we just, have been exposed to. And the thing is that if we allow the emotions to rule us, then our experiences will always be based on those emotions. So I'm kind of talking in circles here a little bit. I'm trying to make sense of emotions, which it really is difficult to do. But we are emotional beings, and we always will be. And so we can actually use them to our advantage. We talked about manifesting, for example. And I've talked about manifesting in many podcasts. And I talk about, having belief and doing the work and all those different aspects. But the one thing that will really, really work with your visualization and your work and your belief and all that stuff is to really tie emotions to that process. If you do that, then that becomes something very much instilled within you and your body and your mind. It is a lot easier to manifest and bring forth things in your life. So in other words, if emotions are tied to memories and we are visualizing, for example, that we want something to come in our life and we visualize regularly, we start doing the work, we start seeing little wins and starting to get beliefs, that's great. But the thing is that we have to really emotionally attach ourselves to those memories, even if they are made up, so to speak, in our mind. You actually have to imagine yourself there, how you would actually feel or how you want to feel when you reach that goal, you reach that destination, you've gotten that job, you get that relationship or whatever it is. That will really, really bring in that manifestation so much faster. I mean, the last podcast or two ago, I talked about, having visualized an outcome at soccer tryouts and, did months and months of visualization and, went out and practiced and did all the work as goalkeeper, all these different things. The one thing I don't think I talked about then is that I really tied the emotions to that visualization and how I was going to feel when the coach said very specific things that actually happened. And it really helped to bring home that outcome. And so it is very, very important that we get in touch with our emotions. If we find ourselves completely overwhelmed with emotions and we don't know what to do with it, which does happen, like we talked about today at the memorial, some people really couldn't turn it back off. I mean, I was getting emotional too, not so much for the person who died, because as you probably heard me talk about before, I feel like death is in many ways just the beginning. It wasn't so much that for me, but it's the reaction of the family and how devastated they were and how distraught they were that they had lost somebody. That's what kind of got me going emotionally. It's because it's like you want to be empathetic, and you feel the same things that they're beginning to feel or have been feeling. But some people, end up with a lifetime of grieving after those things. It is hard to watch that happen. I know people that have been grieving their whole life from having lost somebody. And I can understand it, but at the same time, we can't make a life sentence out of losses of any kind, whether it's a person or a thing or a job or any of that. Because the thing that happens is then we don't ever actually get to continue living. Maybe being alive, but not living. And we are not designed to mourn our whole life. We are designed, in my opinion, to go through a process of grieving, and I forget, there's like 7 steps. Don't quote me on that. But there's a lot of steps that you should go through and you need to go through, because if you don't, then those feelings get locked away in the closet. Like the example I had earlier about that returning back. You have to actually dig into that and recognize it and talk to somebody about it, or talk to yourself or journal, or there's a lot of ways to get those things out. So emotions will actually run your life if you let them. But they can also value your life much more if you allow them as well. Take those emotions and do something positive with them. I know a lot of people will tend to use anger a lot of times to go after success. If somebody says you can't sing worth a crap, right? Even though you know that you can, or you feel like you can sing, well, that anger does a lot of times is it will set you on a path of vengeance, if you will, or I'm going to show them. That can be good and that can be bad. But you can use emotions a lot of times to really fire yourself up, to really get yourself going. I mean, I get out there on the soccer field and, I'm not a very angry guy, but, I have had recently some of my own teammates belittle me for making, 1 or 2 mistakes in the goal. Overall performance is always good. It's just those little things, right, that get me sometimes. And, there's no reason for somebody to belittle you, but that just, it kind of hurts. It kind of stings, right? But you know what it does in a lot of ways? It's like, it pushes me to work harder. And so there can always be good things that come out of it. There can always be positives out of everything that happens to you emotionally. But I work with people energetically a lot. I do Reiki, which is an energy healing modality, old Japanese method. But what I find with emotions is they will bottle up and clog up the flow of your energy in your body. This is why hospitals are full of sick people. This is why pharmacies are dispensing medications to God's green end. I don't know if I said that right. You understand where I'm going with that, is that we are a society that has become physically ill because we are not paying attention and monitoring and doing something with our emotions that's constructive, and we're just putting it away because we got to keep that job, we got to keep that marriage, we got to keep whatever. Because if you got a boss that's an asshole, sorry about the words, you would love to just tell them how you feel, and it makes you angry and it makes you pissed off, but you need the job. And so a lot of times you can't actually address the source of your emotions, but you must find a way to address it. Because if you don't, then one day that asshole boss is going to say something one more time, and you are going to pop off. Really, really bad things are going to happen probably, right? I'm not saying it will, but you understand what I'm saying, because our conscious mind, our subconscious, all parts of our consciousness cannot handle emotions that are stuffed. It's sort of like filling a trash can full of garbage. Eventually it's going to get so full it's going to have to fall out of the sides. It has to go somewhere. It actually has to expand out and find a release or an escape. That's kind of a easy example. And it's the same thing with our consciousness. If we continue to stuff down feelings and allow those things to go unchecked and run around and unresolved and just keep going on with our life, putting our blinders on, not talking about it, not doing something about it, then one day either you're going to explode emotionally It's got to happen because it's got to go somewhere. Or the biggest thing that happens these days is that your mind will find some way to distract you. Your consciousness is all about survival. It will develop a pain or a sickness or a problem within your body that now gives you a distraction and allows the mind to reset and to get right again. But it takes away the problem. It doesn't allow it to continue to overflow. I read a really, really good book a long time ago. I say a long time ago, probably 15, 20 years ago now. I don't even remember the exact title. But it talked about that. I'll talk about it for a second. So the doctor that wrote this book had imaged several hundred people, their spines. None of them necessarily reporting any pain or problems. And he did MRIs, CAT scans, X-rays, all the workups. And about a very, very large percent, of them had reasons to have pain. Bone spurs, herniated discs, bulging discs, misalignments, all those kind of things. But they didn't have pain. So he took a select number of them and he told them what the results were, and they all of a sudden had pain. So there is a direct connection between our minds and the perception of our minds and our physical health. But he also realized this very paradigm that I'm talking about is that the mind can only fill up so much, and then it must spill over and cause problems so that you have a distraction. You can no longer be mad at your boss or your wife or your husband because now you have this massive back pain that just came out of nowhere, and now you have to deal with that. And so you don't have to deal with the other thing because your body gave you a distraction. Does it mean it goes away? No. But if you learn also what parts of your body, every part of your body speaks of some aspect of your life. Go out and get yourself a chart that describes it. The best one I found is a Roby chart. I don't get anything for it. I'm just saying it's called ROBY, Roby chart. It breaks it down into what every area of the body energetically speaks about. And so if you wake up one day with right knee pain, boom, you can look at the chart and you go, oh, okay, so moving forward, or flexibility with moving forward in life and on my plans and going to the future, that's why I have this knee pain, because your mind is trying to give you an escape and a way to resolve a lot of these emotions that are building up in your body. Emotions is not just about what most people think emotions are. It is about every aspect of your body, every aspect of you, how you flow energetically, how you flow physically, how you flow mentally. And once you learn that and you capture that and you actually pay attention to it and you actually do something with it, harness those emotions, decide how you're going to react, how you're going to deal with those, and actually do deal with them. Maybe not with the angry asshole boss. Sorry, I said it 3 times now, didn't I? Not with that person necessarily, but find a way to get that talked about and look at it in different ways and have somebody objectively talk to you about it. There's always a way to do something with these emotions. It also, remember that emotions will eventually become your perception. If you let the emotions just run you and you accept them, even if it's not consciously, maybe subconsciously, it's just allowed to happen within you, those perceptions will eventually become your truth and your reality. And next thing you know, you think that spouse is absolutely the worst person in the world. But if you were to go backwards in time in the past and you were to analyze how your idea of the emotions that occurred because of things that were said or things were done, how they acted or whatever, and watch how the patterns of that emotion or emotions were able to just progress and stay within and grow like a plant, you would realize that is absolutely nothing to any of that. And if you really take those feelings and those emotions and you talk about them, hopefully with the person that is the cause of it in your mind, it doesn't mean that it is the cause, but if you actually take the time to do that and you actually begin to work that out and make sure you understand that their action in your mind may not have anything to do with why the emotion is in your mind. Then you can begin to understand how you work and how these emotions keep coming up in your life and how they keep affecting you. And so you get my point. You got to start with the source. And if you're not paying attention and figuring out that you actually have these emotional baggages or bags in your body, you'll never really be a whole person. You're never going to get all the things in your life that you want. You have to be able to be a free-flowing, healthy, at all levels person. And to do that, you have to control the flow. It sounds simple. It's not. I'm not saying any of this is easy. When I was going through my dark night of the soul, it was one of the most painful processes I think I've ever done. However, looking back at that, it's like a small blip in time now. And I'm so glad that I went through that. Am I perfect now? No. I mean, there's always work to do. And there's always, I don't think we could all or ever understand emotions completely. But understanding them as best as you can is really the best thing I think any of us can do. It will allow us to be who we should be, who we want to be, and leave the bags at the door. I think I talked in a lot of different circles, and kind of back and forth, but I hope you understand where I'm going with this, that emotions are super, super, super important. They are part of us. They're not going anywhere. Let's learn to use them to our advantage and not allow them to become our disadvantage. As usual, I would really love to hear your stories and your ideas on this and how you feel, no pun intended, about emotions and how they affect different parts of you. And this helps both of us learn to put that together. I mean, having a chart and working with somebody energetically or people energetically for years and years, I've gained a lot of knowledge about the human body. But there's always things to learn. There's always something new that comes up that I didn't know before. And it's always helpful when we help each other to learn so that we can become better human beings ourselves and help other people understand themselves. So reach out to me and look at my contact page at my website, lifebymazak.com, lifebymazak.com. I really look forward to hearing from you guys. You will hear from me many times again. Stay strong and live your life.